What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Oak Tree Football Channel, and welcome to another 2020 schedule breakdown and record prediction video for college football. Today I'll be doing Arizona State. Arizona State was a very interesting team last season. They started off 5-1. Their only loss being to Colorado, I believe, so it looks like a really good start. And then they lost 4 straight, and they were 5-5. And then a week later, they played Oregon, who I believe only had 1 loss at that point. It was in Sun Devil Stadium, which is where they play. They played Oregon, who was, I believe, 6th ranked in the country, and they surprised them with a win, which eventually made it so Oregon would not be able to make it to the college football playoff, so that one was huge. And then that got them bowl eligible, and then they won their final game of the season against Arizona, and then they won in the Sun Bowl against Florida State. So they're in the Pac-12 South. This is the second Pac-12 South team I've done. The other team I did was USC. If you haven't checked that one out, go check that one out after this. So Arizona State is losing some very good talent to the draft. The running back, Benjamin, who was very, very good for them. He has been productive for a few years now for Arizona State. And then a first-round pick, Brandon Aiyuk, the wide receiver, who's now a member of the San Francisco 49ers. He was very, very big player. So at the quarterback was the name of Jayden Daniels, who last year, it was his freshman season last year. He threw 17 touchdowns, which isn't great, but he only threw 2 interceptions, which is very, very good, especially from a younger quarterback. And then he had 355 rush yards and 3 touchdowns, which is good. I think that he's going to throw a lot more now with Benjamin gone, even though he is also losing Brandon Aiyuk. I think we will see him throwing more just because of he really showed a lot of potential in last year's season. And I think they're going to rely on him to run the ball more because he did do it pretty well, but I feel like that's going to be something they're going to want to do more. But I do think it can be a pretty good season for Jayden Daniels. So with that out of the way, let's get into looking at their schedule. But before we can do that, as you can see in the top corner, they went 8-5 last year, which, like I said, after that Florida State win in the Sun Bowl. And their recruiting class was ranked 25th in the country, which is very, very good to a already talented team that's only losing 2 players. Like I said, they are 2 very important players. 25th recruiting class rank is really good. So let's get into looking at their schedule. Week 1, they play another Arizona team, and it's Northern Arizona. This one should not be a problem at all. This should be one of Arizona State's easier games of the season. I really do not see them having a problem whatsoever with Northern Arizona. This should definitely be a win, especially this game being at home for them. Should be a pretty easy win in my opinion. I really cannot see them having much of a problem, and I've talked about it before in the past with some of these record prediction videos and schedule breakdowns. Having an easy game in week 1 is very, very important because, as I've said in the past, it really gets you back in the feel of the game. It gets new starters ready for what's to come this season. So I think it's very good that they open with an easy game. Week 2, it's a bit harder. They're against UNLV. It is at UNLV as well. UNLV is a team I think can be pretty good this year, except they're not really in that big of a conference, so they don't really have that many tough games. And this game, I could see UNLV actually putting a pretty good fight, better than some people might expect. It is at UNLV for Arizona State, which is just going to make it tougher. But Arizona State is the better team than UNLV. I don't think there's any question about that, and I do think they should get the win. At the end of the day, I do think they should get the win. I feel like UNLV might surprise a few people with maybe how many points they can put up in this game, but I really don't think it should be much of a problem for Arizona State. I think even though UNLV will probably play well, I think Arizona State will play better. So I think it's a pretty easy 2-0 start to the season. Week 3 is their first real tough game, and it's against BYU. BYU isn't really... Most people wouldn't really think of this as a tough team, but BYU is actually a pretty good team. They have some good players on that roster. They're an independent right now, which means they're not in a conference, but they do have some good players on that roster. It's just going to be tough for them to beat Arizona State. I do think that this could definitely be a loss for Arizona State, but this game being at home for Arizona State really gives them the better shot at it. I could see BYU actually maybe getting a win, but I think it's a lot more likely that Arizona State wins. Like I said, BYU has some good players, but so does Arizona State. I'm leaning towards Arizona State in this one. I think there's a, a okay chance that BYU wins this game, but I think there's a lot better of a chance that Arizona State will win. Week 4, they have a very, very tough game. It's at USC. USC, I think it's really between USC and Arizona State in the Pac-12 South to go to the Pac-12 championship game, which will most likely be against Oregon. So this game is an important game. It's one of the most important games, I think, for both of these teams, USC and Arizona State, because both of these teams are teams that are good, but I don't really think they'll be like great, and so I feel like whoever really loses this game, I don't really think that they will end up in the Pac-12 championship. So this is an important game. Two younger quarterbacks, Keaton Slovis for USC and Jayden Daniels for Arizona State. I do think Keaton Slovis is the better quarterback, and I think he'll have the better season. That's not taking anything away from Jayden Daniels, so I think he'll have a good season. I think he's a good quarterback. I just think Keaton Slovis is the better one. And this game being at USC is so important for USC, and it's not great for Arizona State. I think it'll probably be USC, but by no means would I be surprised if Arizona State won, but I really am leaning towards USC in this one. Week 5, they have a pretty easy one. It's against Oregon State. I don't see Oregon State really putting up that much of a challenge for any team this season, and this game being they'll put up a challenge for some teams, obviously, because I don't think they're going to win no games this season, but especially some of these better teams, I don't really see them putting up a challenge, such as Arizona State, and they are on the road for this one, Oregon State, so I do think Arizona State will probably win this game because they are the better team, they have the home field advantage. It really looks like everything's in their favor to pretty easily win this game. Week 6, this one shouldn't be too hard either. It's against UCLA. At home, once again, for Arizona State. UCLA, just like Oregon State, I don't see them challenging too many teams this season. Obviously, I think they'll win a few games, but they're losing some talent, such as Darnay Holmes at the cornerback position. They didn't have that much talent to begin with. So I'm not really relying on UCLA to win that many games this season. And I think Arizona State is 100% the safest bet in this prediction. Week 7, they have a bye week, which is a pretty good, pretty well placed bye. It's not perfect, but it's not that bad either. Week 8, they play at Colorado. Colorado, I don't really expect much from Colorado this season. They are losing Laviska Shenault. They're losing talent. They're losing their quarterback as well, Steven Montez. They weren't that good of a team to begin with. I don't remember exactly how many games they won last season, but I'm pretty sure they were not bowl eligible. I think it was somewhere around 5 or 4. I think it'll be more of the same from Colorado this season. Even though Colorado is at home in this game, I don't even see them putting up much of a challenge for Arizona State. I just think Colorado isn't that great of a football team, and Arizona State is a great football team, and it should be an easy win for Arizona State. Maybe not that easy, but it should not be hard whatsoever. And then week 9, they play at Washington State. So both Washington and Washington State are pretty good teams. They are losing some talent, but today I'm focusing on Washington State right here. Washington State is a very good football team, and I do expect them to. I don't expect them to be ranked this year, but I do expect them to be bowl eligible, probably around that 8-7 win mark, I would say, which is why I see this being a big challenge for Arizona State, especially this game being at Washington State. I'm really leaning towards Washington State in this one. I do think I wouldn't be surprised if Arizona State won. I just think that I think Arizona State is the better team, but I think Washington State is a very good team, and I think because they're at home, they'll probably win this one. But I would not be surprised if Arizona State won. It's going to be a fun game to watch. It really is. It's not too important. I mean, obviously every game is important if you're going to win. It's not too important based on to go to the conference championship because these teams are actually in different divisions. It's more important for Arizona State, I would say, because I don't really see Washington State going to the championship game. I think it's a possibility that Arizona State will go to the championship game. But I am leaning towards Washington State in this one. Week 10, it's a very interesting game. It's at home for Arizona State, but it's against California. So I am actually really high on California this season. I could see them having 8 or even 9 wins this season, maybe even double digits. I don't think they'll go that high, but I definitely think it's possible. So I'm very high on California this season, and I could definitely see them putting up a fight in this one. Arizona State is in a different division from California, but they're both in the Pac-12, just like Washington State. So to be honest, California is the only real team I could actually see Oregon challenging Oregon for the championship game. Potentially Washington or Washington State, but California is, in my opinion, I think they're the closest team to Oregon in their division. So I think California can be really good this year. Even though they are losing some talent, I think they will be a very good team this year. But just because this game is at home for Arizona State, I really am leaning towards Arizona State in this one. Would not be surprised if California won, but I'm leaning towards Arizona State. Week 11, it's against Oregon. So like I said earlier at the beginning, last year Arizona State was able to beat Oregon and end Oregon's playoff hopes. Once again, I believe Oregon will have some playoff hopes this season, and I think at this point in the year they will be very close, probably around that 5-6 range, just like they were last time these two teams met. Maybe even if the 4th position. I do expect Oregon definitely to be challenging for a playoff game, or a college football playoff game this season. So, could we see the same thing where Arizona State shocks Oregon? I don't think it would be as much of a shock this time, but it would still probably surprise a lot of people. But really the difference between this year and last year, Arizona State versus Oregon, last year it was at home for Arizona State, and they just really played well at home. This time it's at home for Oregon, and that's why I am leaning towards Oregon in this one. I was leaning towards Oregon last year as well, but this year I feel like it's a safer bet to go with Oregon. Even though it was a pretty safe bet last year, it didn't turn out to be right. I think it's even safer this year, just because I do believe Oregon is the better team, and because Oregon is at home, I do think that they will win this game. This is one of the few games. I don't think Arizona State. I think they could beat every team on their schedule. I don't think they will beat every team on their schedule, but I could definitely see them beating every team that I have them losing. And of course, I could see them beating every team that I have them beating this season. So I could see them beating Oregon, but this is their toughest game of the season, I think. Oregon is the best team they're facing, and this game being at home for Oregon, I really do think that will get the job for Oregon in this one. Then week 12, they have Utah. Utah was very good this past season. They made it to the Pac-12 championship game, but they are losing a lot of talent. They really are, such as Zach Moss. I don't really expect much from Utah. Well, I'm going to rephrase that. I do think Utah will be good this season, but I'm not expecting as much as last season because they were very good last year. I think they're going to lose a few more games. I do think they can be ranked, not ranked, bowl eligible, probably around 7 wins, I would say. At worst, probably 6. Maybe they would dip down under 6 and go to 5, but I'm not so sure about that. I would say 6 or 7, potentially even 8 wins for Utah this season. But this game being at home for Arizona State, I think that will help them get the job done. I think Arizona State will win this one. And then week 13, they have a rival game. It's against Arizona. Arizona versus Arizona State. Arizona State is the home team. I mean, obviously Arizona is still in Arizona, so it's not that much of a home field advantage, but it still kind of is a home field advantage. Of course, Arizona State has proved they can win at home, as they proved with Oregon last season. That's why I've gone with them in a lot of their home games this season, just because they really can win games at home. So I don't expect that much from Arizona this season, and I do think it should probably be an Arizona State win. So now, as I always do, I'll go through each game once again, and I'll give my prediction for who I believe will win. Week 1 against Northern Arizona, I'm taking Arizona State. That should be an easy one, I think. I'm going to take them in week 2 against UNLV as well. I will take them against BYU. I could see this being a challenge, and I could see them losing, but just them being at home, and I think they are the better team at the end of the day. I'm going to take Arizona State. Week 4, I have them losing to USC. I think that they're in a similar level of talent than USC, maybe even better than USC, but just this game being at home for USC, I'm leaning towards USC in this one. 3-1 at this point in the year. I think they can pretty easily beat Oregon State and UCLA. Then they have their bye week, and I think they will beat Colorado. I don't think it'll be much of a challenge. But week 9, I have them losing to Washington State. I just think Washington State will be the better team on this day. I don't think Washington State is the better team overall, but Washington State is a good team, and the game being at home for them, I'm leaning towards them. I have them beating California, but I have them losing to Oregon. Like I said, Oregon's a great football team, and them being at home, I just think that secures a win for them. And then I have them beating Utah and Arizona to end the season, and to give them a record of 9-3. So I have Arizona State winning every home game this season. I just think they're going to be really, really good at home. But all those 3 losses come on the road. Their toughest games are on the road, to be honest. Potentially, maybe California would be tougher than Washington State, but those are still tough games, and I don't think they'll be able to win those games being on the road. But I do expect a very good season from Arizona State, and I think we can see Jayden Daniels put up some good numbers. I'm really excited to see how Jayden Daniels plays this season, because I expect a pretty big year from him. But those are my thoughts on Arizona State. What are your guys' thoughts on Arizona State? Tell me in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like. And if you're new around here, feel free to subscribe for more daily NFL and college football content. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next video.